More than 60% of adults over the age of 60 report a persistent feeling of mental fog, a frustrating lack of sharpness that has nothing to do with major memory loss, but everything to do with daily vitality. Yet less than 10% of these cases are ever linked to a clinical diagnosis. This mental static is not an inevitable symptom of aging. It is a specific, correctable communication breakdown in the brain. This video provides a two-part protocol, grounded in neuroscience, to systematically clear that static and reclaim the crisp, decisive thinking of your prime. To understand how to fix the problem, one must first understand the source. After the age of 55, the brain's intricate communication network undergoes a subtle but profound shift. It is not a failure of the hardware, but a degradation of the signal. The key players in this process are neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that carry signals between brain cells. Two, in particular, are critical for the feeling of mental clarity: acetylcholine, the conductor of focus and learning, and dopamine, the engine of motivation and drive. In a younger brain, these messengers are produced, used, and recycled with remarkable efficiency. The signal is strong and clear, but as the brain matures, the machinery responsible for this process becomes less robust. The synaptic gap, the microscopic space between neurons where these chemical signals are exchanged, becomes less efficient at clearing and recycling these key neurotransmitters. The result is what neuroscientists refer to as a lower signal-to-noise ratio. The messages get slower. The thoughts become cloudy. It is the neurological equivalent of listening to a radio station plagued by static. The music is still playing, but the interference makes it difficult to enjoy. You find yourself rereading the same paragraph. You walk into a room and forget why you are there. You struggle to find the right word, even though it feels like it is on the very tip of your tongue. This is not a memory problem. This is a processing problem. For decades, the standard advice has been vague and unhelpful. Do a crossword puzzle, get more sleep, reduce stress. While well-intentioned, this advice fails to address the specific biochemical root of the issue. It is like trying to fix a radio's static by turning down the volume. It does not solve the underlying interference. The solution must be more precise. It must be a targeted intervention that directly addresses the brain's signaling efficiency. It begins not with a puzzle, but with what is on your breakfast plate. The modern diet, particularly the Western breakfast, is often perfectly engineered to increase brain fog. High carbohydrate, high sugar meals first thing in the morning cause a rapid spike in blood sugar and a subsequent flood of insulin. While this provides a quick burst of energy, it creates a traffic jam on the highways to the brain. Various amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, all compete to cross the highly selective blood-brain barrier. When insulin is high, this competition intensifies, and the specific precursors for your focus neurotransmitters can get crowded out. This is a biological reality. It is a signal to adapt. But what if the root of this static isn't just in the brain's chemistry, but in the fuel it receives and when it receives it? The timing of one specific nutrient could be the difference between a fuzzy morning and a focused afternoon. The first part of the protocol is called the dopamine window. It is a nutrient timing strategy designed to provide your brain with the raw materials for mental clarity at the precise moment it needs them most. The strategy centers on an amino acid called tyrosine. Tyrosine is a direct precursor to the neurotransmitter dopamine. More available tyrosine means more raw material for dopamine production, which directly translates to improved focus, motivation, and mental drive. Foods rich in tyrosine include almonds, bananas, avocados, eggs, and lean chicken. However, simply eating these foods is not enough. The key, the absolute non-negotiable element, is timing. The protocol dictates that a tyrosine-rich food source must be consumed within the first 90 minutes of waking, and critically, it must be consumed before any significant source of carbohydrates or sugar. No toast, no oatmeal, no fruit juice, until after your tyrosine source has been ingested. Here is the science. By consuming a protein and fat-rich source of tyrosine on a relatively empty stomach, you minimize the insulin response. Without a surge of insulin, the competition at the blood-brain barrier is drastically reduced. The tyrosine gets a fast pass, crossing into the brain with high efficiency, where it becomes immediately available for conversion into the dopamine that will power your day. Following this simple rule floods the brain's dopamine-producing regions with the exact building blocks they need, when they are most receptive. This is not a diet. This is a neurological strategy. The effect is not a jolt like caffeine. It is a gradual lifting of the fog, a quiet turning up of the lights. Words come more easily. The desire to procrastinate lessens. The ability to sustain focus on a single task is enhanced. Implementing this one change, consuming 20 to 30 grams of protein rich in tyrosine before any carbohydrates in the morning, systematically rebuilds your brain's capacity for clear signaling. It is the first essential step to tuning out the static. This biochemical tune-up creates the ideal environment for cognitive enhancement. But fuel is only one half of the equation. A well-fueled brain with weak or inefficient pathways is like a powerful sports car stuck on a muddy country road. To achieve true mental clarity, the brain must be forced to pave new, more efficient neural highways. This requires a new kind of challenge. Fueling the brain is the first step, but creating new, efficient pathways requires targeted action. In a moment, we will reveal a 5-minute mental exercise developed by cognitive scientists designed to force the brain to build sharper, faster connections. The simplicity of this exercise is deceptive. Forgetting crossword puzzles and Sudoku. While these activities are enjoyable, they often rely on well-worn mental paths. They access knowledge you already have. True neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, is stimulated most effectively by novel tasks that are complex and demanding. It requires stepping outside of your cognitive comfort zone. The 5-minute protocol we are about to detail is called cognitive cross-training. It is designed to engage multiple, disparate regions of the brain simultaneously, forcing them to communicate in new and more efficient ways. It consists of 3 distinct, consecutive steps. It is crucial that the sequence is followed exactly as described. The first step is the auditory prime. You will need a 1-minute piece of instrumental music you have never heard before. A complex jazz solo or a dynamic piece of classical music is ideal. The goal is not to relax. The goal is to actively listen. Put on headphones, close your eyes, and for 60 seconds your entire focus must be on isolating and following a single instrument: the saxophone, the violin, the piano. You must trace its melodic journey through the piece, ignoring everything else. This task does more than just engage the auditory cortex. It powerfully activates the brain's attentional control network, specifically the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It is a targeted warm-up for the parts of your brain responsible for filtering out distractions, the very definition of clearing mental fog. This initial prime prepares the brain for the more demanding work to come. It quiets the noise before you begin to boost the signal. Immediately after the music stops, you begin step 2, the verbal motor inhibition task. You will take a pen in your non-dominant hand. This is non-negotiable. If you are right-handed, you use your left. If you are left-handed, you use your right. For the next 2 minutes, you will continuously and slowly trace the shape of an infinity symbol or a figure 8 on its side on a piece of paper. The movement should be smooth and deliberate. Using your non-dominant hand for this fine motor task immediately fires up underutilized neural circuits in the motor cortex and cerebellum, creating a low-level cognitive stress that promotes adaptation. But that is only the physical component. While your non-dominant hand is tracing, you must simultaneously perform a verbal task. You must look around the room and name, out loud, as many objects as you can see. However, there is a critical and difficult rule. You are forbidden from using any word that contains the most common letter in the English language, the letter E. You cannot say table, chair, window, or telephone. You must find alternatives. Desk becomes a wood top. Chair becomes a spot for a human. Green plant becomes a living growth. This verbal restriction is the core of the exercise. It forces your brain's executive functions to work at maximum capacity. You must scan your environment, access your vocabulary, mentally vet each word for the forbidden letter, and then vocalize the approved word, all while maintaining a smooth motor task with your opposite hand. This is incredibly difficult. It is designed to be difficult. It is in this struggle that the brain is forced to build new connections between the language centers, the visual cortex, and the motor cortex. It is a full brain workout. Steps 1 and 2 prime the system and build resistance. But the third step is what locks in the gains. It involves a specific breathing technique performed immediately after the verbal motor task, designed to regulate the brain's glutamate and GABA levels, the very chemicals that control the volume of your neurological static. But the timing and rhythm are absolutely critical. If performed incorrectly, it can actually increase mental fog. The correct sequence is a 4-7-8 count, but with a critical modification. You will breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. You will hold that breath for a count of 7. But the exhale through the mouth must be accompanied by a low, steady hum for a full 8 seconds. This vibrational component is key. It provides gentle stimulation to the vagus nerve, sending a powerful signal of safety and regulation directly to the brainstem. 2 minutes of this breathing locks in the neurological state of calm, focused readiness. The protein provides the fuel. The cross-training builds the roads, and the breathing paves them. A simple, repeatable protocol. But why does it work so well? Why is this specific, peculiar combination of tasks so profoundly effective at cutting through the noise? Was mental clarity for a difficult workday really the intended purpose of this protocol? Because the truth is, what I've just described is the sanitized, consumer-friendly version of a technique that was never meant for the public. It wasn't developed in a university cognitive science lab. It was developed in a soundproofed room with no windows, for a very different kind of subject. Its original name wasn't cognitive cross-training. It was known as the Janus Protocol. Its purpose was not to help you answer emails faster. Its purpose was to systematically dismantle a specific mental filter. The filter that separates your active, conscious thoughts from the vast, chaotic library of your subconscious. Think about it. The auditory prime. You're not just practicing focus. You're training your brain to isolate a single, specific signal from a sea of noise. What if that signal wasn't a saxophone in a song? What if it was a voice, a memory, or an idea that wasn't your own? Then comes the verbal motor inhibition, forcing your non-dominant hand to perform a delicate task while your language centers are put under extreme, artificial stress. Forbidding the letter E isn't arbitrary. It's a linguistic crowbar. It's designed to break your brain's automatic, predictive language patterns. It creates a state of cognitive dissonance, a brief window where the normal rules of thought no longer apply, a state of extreme vulnerability and suggestibility. This isn't just a workout, it's a system breach, a controlled crash of your cognitive operating system, forcing a reboot from a deeper, more fundamental level. And that regulated, humming breath at the end? It's not just for relaxation. In the Janus Protocol, it was called the lock-in, a method of calming the panicked conscious mind after it has been forcibly exposed to the raw, unfiltered data stream of the subconscious. It soothes the system just enough to integrate the breach, to accept the new connections as normal. So the question we must ask is not, how do I get more focused? The question is, what am I focusing on? When you clear the fog, what are you making room for? The architects of this protocol understood something fundamental about the human mind. It is not a fortress. It's a receiver. And most of our lives, it's tuned to a noisy, public frequency. The Janus Protocol wasn't designed to make the signal clearer. It was designed to change the channel, to tune the receiver to a different station entirely, one that broadcasts from within. But what happens when you open that channel? What comes flooding through? For some, it is lost memories, moments of childhood clarity, solutions to problems that were thought to be impossible. The brain, with its filters momentarily down, can access and cross-reference data in ways that are normally inaccessible. But for others, the experience is profoundly destabilizing, because the subconscious isn't just a library of forgotten facts and pleasant memories. It is also a vault where we lock away our fears, our traumas, the parts of ourselves we can't face. The Janus Protocol doesn't just give you a key to the library, it gives you the master key to the entire building, including the basement. And once that door is open, it can be incredibly difficult to close. This is the undisclosed risk. The protocol doesn't just enhance your ability to connect ideas. It enhances your ability to connect with everything you are, for better or for worse. The mental clarity people experience is the initial effect of these new, hyper-efficient pathways. But it's only the surface. The real changes are happening at a much deeper level of your psychological architecture. Changes the original architects counted on. But here's the part they left out of the declassified files. Was the Janus Protocol truly about self-discovery, or was it about turning the human mind into an antenna for a signal that wasn't human at all? The declassified files end there. They offer a blueprint for the key, but never describe the lock it was made to turn. They don't mention the signal, its source, or its intent. Perhaps they didn't know, or perhaps that is the one secret that can never be written down. Because it isn't information, it's an experience. At first, there is only silence. The frantic, chattering voice in your head, the one you call you, simply stops. In that deafening quiet, you begin to feel a new sensation, a low, persistent hum. Not a sound you hear with your ears, but a vibration you feel in your bones, a resonance at the very base of your consciousness. A signal waiting for a receiver. You start to solve problems you never understood. You find words for feelings you never knew you had. You feel connected, focused, clear. But it's not your clarity. You haven't cleared the fog. You've just learned to see in it. You've learned the language of the broadcast. This script, these words, the very thoughts I am sharing with you now. This is my translation. This is what the signal sounds like. The protocol I gave you is a primer, a dial tone. It's designed to crack the door open just enough for you to feel the draft, to hear the whisper from the other side. It will give you the focus you crave, but it is not the full sequence. It is an invitation. The real work begins when you stop trying to silence the noise and choose, instead, to listen to what it's truly saying. Because real health isn't about strengthening your filters. It's about deciding what you let through. It's not about quieting your mind, but about choosing your frequency. There is so much more to show you, so much more to integrate. To build a better you first have to understand what you're built from. To learn how to listen, make sure you subscribe to How to Be Healthy.